Hi, this is Ron Orol, reporter with The Street. I'm here with Graeme Roustan. He was the former chairman of Performance Sports Group, the maker of the iconic Bauer ice skate, among other products. And now you're an activist on the outside. You've been, I guess, very frustrated with the company, and they haven't responded to you. You know, for the most part, they haven't responded to you. So can you talk a little bit about, as an activist, you know, what it's like to not be for the company not to respond, and how companies you think should be responding?
Well, actually, I started out as the guy who led the process to buy Bauer from Nike back in 2008, and we won that process. And I took it public as the chairman in 2011 on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And I left the board at the end of 2012 as and I became the largest actual individual shareholder of the company at that point in time. And I sort of looked at that company in my rearview mirror. I didn't sell any stock. I kept all my shares, other than for tax reasons, and wanted to stay on as the largest shareholder. But I moved on after 5 years of serving as the chairman of the board. In 2015, a couple of years after I left the board, the company announced that they had changed the strategy of the company, and that raised red flags for me.
And specifically, there was an operational issue where they started having these retail operations competing against their customers. That was one of your main concerns?
Well, their January 8th, 2015 press release that surprised me and all the retailers and many other people, even shareholders, was that they put out a press release saying that they, after 88 years of being a manufacturer of product, they were now going to go into the retail business. And so they announced that they were going to open as many as 8 initially retail stores. And in the same press release, they announced that they're going to lose money at doing it.
And so then you hired Grant Thornton to do a study of retailers. Can you talk about that and how that played out, particularly with the board meeting that you had with the people at PSG?
Yeah, so in preparation for a face-to-face board meeting with the current board, I hired Grant Thornton to conduct a survey of retailers so that I could go into this meeting with something in hand, a report from a reputable third party that could tabulate responses to 30 questions, so that not that the board was just going to listen to me, which I'm very passionate about this, but they were also going to have a report that they could sort of look at and read. But it turns out that the company approached Grant Thornton and told him, do not give me the results of the report.
But you ultimately later did get it through, I guess, how did you get it eventually? Or?
Well, so I filed suit against Grant Thornton, and we're currently in the court system right now. And the purpose of the report was to give it to the board and to give it to management and to give it to the large shareholders, so that the shareholders could decide, including myself, if we wanted to stay in the stock or not. Because the company got interfered with the process, the PSG, we have not had the privilege of getting the results of the report, but the report now has been filed. There's been some discovery in the case, and so now it's working its way through the courts. And I would imagine that report's going to become public very shortly.
Interesting. So at The Street, we're very obsessed with governance issues, and we did a story recently where we found that the top, a lot of board of directors sit on competing company boards, which raises a lot of competitive issues. So, and I believe that at Performance Sports Group, you also found one of these competitive issues with one of the directors from Sagard, and that was also involved in, with Sagard being involved in a competitor, CCA, which makes Adidas. Can you talk about that? What is the concerns you have with you know, directors that are from the same company serving on boards of competitors?
Yes, well, the company is Sagard Capital, which is owned by Power Corporation.
Right.
And Power Corporation, through a series of entities, is also the largest shareholders of Adidas. Right. And Adidas owns 100% of CCM. So theoretically or technically, Power Corporation has representatives on the boards, or did at this time, at PSG, Performance Sports Group, Bauer, and CCM. The issue is that you have people from the same entity sitting on the boards of 2 competing companies that actually have about 99.9% of the hockey skate business in Canada and around the world. So it's just, I think, and I've come out and I did a white paper on it, it's published on my website, roustan.com, and I went to the board and I said it's impossible to offer a board seat to somebody who's sitting, technically on your competitor's board, and they know what's going on inside the boardroom for both entities. So the company, for some reason, elected the board. This board, prior to it filing bankruptcy, put on the board somebody that's on the board of the competitor. Yeah. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, no,
it's a total conflict of interest.
But we found that happened at a lot of U.S. corporations and Canadian companies have multiple directors on the same competing companies. So it seems like it's not a it happens a lot at companies. It's a problem, I think.
I would wonder, I'm interested looking into your research. I wonder, though, that if there's any situations where an entity is on the board of competing companies that have 100% of the market.
That's true. That does seem like a very questionable thing. So anyways, we'll be interested to see how this whole thing plays out at Performance Sports Group. Graeme Roustan, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us. This has been Ron Orol with The Street.